Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, we are going to be giving you everything you want to know as a follow-up piece where we get the responses from all of the Kingdom management representatives, even a couple players as well, from the SoS4-6016 group. This is what we covered, I believe, a couple days ago, touching on the matchup between MBH DYH versus X, Kong, ASC, and UDF. Now, that's how things started. Where they ended, as of a couple days ago, was X and Kong switching sides, aka betraying, as some say, and moving over to DYH and MBH. And at the moment, you can see that ASC over here on the north side, I believe just got their thing disconnected, behemoth, their giant disconnected, and now they're getting pushed on here. And then over here on the west turn, zone 3, you can see that Kong is pushing them back right now, and it looks like they're going to get a disconnect. They get about an hour and 33, so they probably just started on that flag. And then you have UDF over here. There's Y, and I believe they're pushing. Yeah, so they're pushing this flag. It looks like they're fighting a little bit too as well against ASC. Or sorry, UDF here, and then I guess ASF, which is probably just the shell. And that's how things look. So they're out of the final zone. However, how did we get here? So today what we're going to be showing you off is some testimonials from the management teams and some players. Number two, I'm going to show you a bunch of screenshots. However, I'm only going to go over some screenshots because there's a lot, but I will show you the top and bottom of them so you can read them and pause as you see fit. And then lastly and third, I'm going to go over my summary points of the situation after I've had a chance to speak to everyone, read through the diplomacy chat, which again, thank you to the coalition alliances, again, that being UDF, X, Kong, and ASC, for allowing for me to read through that. I know that it might have started with one or two people just saying that it was okay, but I still appreciate the fact that they were okay and with letting me read through it and then sharing. Along with, again, the other two kingdoms being MBH and DYH on the other side, at least prior to, and being willing to give me some information as well from their side. Okay, let's get into it. Starting with the testimonials. So with UDF, we have, while fighting, X-Kong cut UDF off from Dragon. Waited until UDF was out of Alliance RSS. This is kind of when the betrayal happened. Original plan was for UDF versus X, 1v1 and FC to decide who gets Dragon end of season rewards. Heard that X was upset that UDF didn't want to push Gear Sentry, save Elixir RSet to fight them for Dragon. They were actually pushing DYH the entire time, used Bastion Alliance RSS, and never fortified Dragon area. Did they think they couldn't win against us in a 1v1, so they decided to cut a deal to betray? X asked other alliances to go against UDF after 2v2 was decided and post-agreement. X and Kong and UDF, or X versus Kong and UDF versus ASC, winner of each would fight for Dragon in the FZ. X was upset UDF used merits on Timeless Treasury and possibly Shop and had stored up Elixir. According to X, UDF didn't contribute as much fighting against DYH. One UDF player, a whale, shared a screenshot of having around 250k elixirs. Nobody asked DYH MBH about diplomacy for teams, since anyone that would have teamed with them would have most likely won. Okay, whatever, that works. And then let's get to a UDF player. So someone who's a player was 100 mil plus, I can tell you that. They said that since the FZ, they've RSS healed a lot and used a lot of elixir. Most losses were taken fighting DYH and staying up until 2 to 3 a.m. and even while at work at times. Then we get to Sawuda from ASC. Again, they gave permission if it says perms, right? And obviously anyone's name that's on here gave permission for me to provide. As a complete loss, given that last few days was figuring out who would get Dragon, UDF, or X, 6 Sentinels, etc. for the EOS rewards. ASC pulled out and said Kong can have third place. X refused anything but Dragon rewards and started fortifying Dragon area. Meanwhile, UDF and ASC fought DYH back. 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the 21st. This is about 4 days ago. Notice Kong X fortifying Dragon area and pushing UDF territory. X thought UDF saved their elixir for their 1v1 and FZ to determine who gets Dragon instead of using it against DYH. One UDF whale, well, I guess I can remove this line because I already looked, We had Xthon. Oh no, here we go. One UDF whale posted his elixir in world chat, and Kong got mad about it. That was the mention before that someone there from UDF had said. Sleepy is from X. POV said UDF sold Diplo as MBH is a multi-boxing cheating alliance. Now, this is not the first time I've heard this. I also heard this as well from some people from MBH, which we'll get to in a little bit. 2 1v1. So the reason this was stated was because the idea being is that it was said that UDF were the ones who were pushing for the coalition to be made of 4 kingdoms, them included, versus MBH and DYH. This is just an added reason that this person had given me. 2 1v1s and rewards would be first place Dragon, second place 6 Gear Sentries, third place 6 Gear Sentries, fourth place Hydra, even though everyone would help each other acquire. That's important to note. Notice UDF refused to fight Kong for statues, rather merit traded with ASC / themselves. UDF tried to Diplo Supreme statue into a 2v1 every fight, took fun out of it, and started to stockpile elixirs. UDF ASC fought DYH. UDF pushed a few times to help ASC. Once UDF connected across Zone 3 with ASC, their activity slowed down. DYH often free killing flags. Felt like they had great activity in the one-on-one in Zone 2 versus the ally to determine who got EOS rewards, but not as much activity when fighting real enemy. Before FZ opened SLE KE Day, which is Kill Event Day, leaderboards fill up with UDF merit trading to buy out store treasury. Once FZ flags touched X burnt MBH Bastion, got X Bastion up to push MBH off Dragon Island. DYH was pushing ASC UDF. Then they were able to push back during DYH downtime. FZ is now secured at this point. Time to assist. Where was it? Time to assist ASC Kong to get their gear sentry, so 1v1 could take place between X and UDF. Levin and Sleepy spoke and agreed to focus on sentries. Then 1v1 on the weekend. Use RNG to decide on time, so not favorable for either side. Levin, UDF R4s, and Sawuda say cannot push gear sentries due to RSS limit. Hi, sweetie. Go do what you need to do. Yes. Oh, very nice. Okay, go do what you got to do first. Go do what you got to do first, please. Thank you. Okay. Due to RSS limit, they should fight the 1v1 sooner. Suspicions were correct in that UDF may have been planning this all season. They hoarded Elixir RSS, let allies do heavy lifting, avoid real fights, keep hospitals low to secure 1v1 win for Dragon. Expressed dissatisfaction with their actions, then reached out to DYH and BH for same proposal. They agreed ASC Kong would not have been able to get their sentries if UDF X fought earlier. Then we get to DYH management perspective. So no alliances reached out to DYH about diplomacy or any matchups. DYH initially reached out to MBH partially due to their Chinese leadership core. DYH learned from them about the X-Kong UDF ASC team up through MBH. Their coalition's plan was to bore us to death, did not enter our joint Zone 2's limited statue fights. DYH first action was in Zone 3 versus ASC UDF. We know that's correct. Though UDF arrived later and mainly provided support. After FZ, so this is a second alliance saying that, okay, well, maybe UDF didn't fight that much. However, from the ASC perspective, UDF did fight along with UDF. So it's kind of like this 2 and 2. X reached out and promised rewards. After FZ opened and fighting continued, DYH reached ASC UDF territory. X reached out and promised rewards. DYH unaware of the internal strife going on within their coalition. And this is important because to DYH and MBH, they're just off doing their own thing, fighting as much as they can, trying to get as much out of the season as possible. They're saying decision to work with X-Kong was purely based on wanting to give DYH members some recognition for their efforts with 100 active members in Chinese time zone. Felt as UDF didn't attack them seriously and some mocked DYH in World Chat. Felt DYH was underestimated, excluded from diplomacy, yet survived prolonged 2v1 first 5 days of final zone. DYH earned 250 million merits. Okay. From Kong, Chitty says, UDF and X unsure on what to do with Dragon. ASC UDF said invading to get 12 sentries, 6 per alliance would not work with time remaining. Appeared that they were trying to change what was already agreed upon. X went to DYH and BH to switch sides, then reached out to Kong with offer, and Kong agreed. And that's important because it wasn't like Kong went with X to them if X went there. So that just means kind of Kong was more floating, right? They're kind of more neutral, if you will, at least how it comes across. A player from Kong said that they were told that MBH were removed from the equation for diplomacy or team consideration, which we later found out was a lie. Okay. We were told that MBH were removed from the equation for diplomacy. Now, I don't know if that was UDF that did that or if that was someone else, but this is the second time you're hearing from someone else that's not, or second time you're hearing, and this time is not from an MBH or DYH alliance, that those two kingdoms for MBH and DYH were not considered for diplomacy. And we know that there was something going on possibly between UDF and MBH, which they may mention that in a moment, but also the fact that DYH was the one that proposed initially for the 4v2. We later found out that was a lie. So Kong finding out that that was a lie, that they were removed from the equation of being considered. We were told MB DYH wouldn't work with anyone else, so original 3v3 proposal was out, then tried to do a 2v2v2, but UDF wanted the four kingdoms to work together. So there you go, you have it. So now it kind of feels a little bit like the storyline is shaping up that UDF maybe was the mastermind. That's one argument you can make, one path that we could go down of, okay, they didn't want to work with MBH and or DYH. They may have said things to dismantle or to remove the possibility of those two kingdoms being in early diplomacy conversations to maybe try for a 3v3. And then number three, they advocated for the 4v2, which kind of feels like it's more of a diplomacy win at that point. That's how it's looking on the outside, looking in objectively based on what we've seen and heard or what we've heard so far. Let's continue. Okay, now we have UDF proactively reached out to the four for diplomacy early. Okay, there you go. So that's another double down. Kong and X were not on good terms until FZ, where they fought against MBH. Kong and UDF were doing majority merit trading during Zone 3 due to safety of being in the middle zone, so not on the edges, right, where the Zone 3s would be at an impact point between MBH and DYH, or where they'd be adjacent. Reason for X-Kong team switch could be UDF expected X to fight with Kong through MBH level 5 pass, then through their Zone 3 to capture sentries. Then turn around and fight against UDF in 1v1. Kong would have the same rewards regardless of team switch, though felt compelled due to UDF ASC not wanting to follow through on a rewards agreement. Okay, now let's hear what MBH management has to say. So I actually heard from two people of management. Previous KVK, MBH fought against UDF SLR and won. UDF accused MBH of multi-box pilot. So that's interesting because remember, we ended up hearing from whoever was at the top, whether it was UDF or ASC, someone up there that mentioned the whole multi-boxing thing. Felt that UDF was surprised on how active and strong MBH was and were not prepared. Tried to explain to UDF R5 that they learned from their experience fighting against NTS. So shout out to NTS. UDF apparently went to other four kingdoms and said that MBH multi-box cheats. UDF doesn't like MBH. UDF did not want to fight MBH 1v1 at Supreme Statue and tried to get other kingdoms to attack MBH at same time. This is interesting because we heard before that in someone else's POV above that there might have been some diploing of the statues. MBH was not included and invited to a diplomacy Discord server with all participating kingdoms. They asked other R5s about possibilities via DMs, then later found out through Discord about the 2v4 situation. Okay, so now you're kind of doubling down on this of what this is up to 3 mentions now of the fact that MBH and DYH were not involved in anything. Seems a little rough. MBH was not included or invited to a diplomacy Discord server with all participating kingdoms. Oh, sorry, no, we already read that one. Now let's get to MBH management MBH POV. UDF ASC did not fight in FZ, only merit traded and saved for treasury. X and Kong spent, what is this here? X and Kong spent elixir in Zone 3 fighting. UDF ASC did not help X Kong other zones. X Kong unhappy because who got most merits in FZ could not decide prizes. Yes.
Daddy, we have to take a shower.
Okay, that's okay.
Why she take a shower?
It's okay. Wait for her to get out, and then you guys can go ahead and finish. Are you still cleaning? Okay, go ahead. I'll be right there, sweetie. Thank you. Thank you. X-Kong felt like UDF pawns and came across as shitey, we'll say, practice. ASC member later told that they themselves were UDF pawn, only allied to get best rewards. Interesting. Okay, now we're going to get into some screens. So I'm not going to read through all of these. I will show you them, and I'll scroll through all the sections. What is it? I know. Okay, good. All the sections. And then I'm going to read some. So the ones that are minimized are the ones we'll do some reading on. So this one, whatever you want, lol, seems UDF will fight ASC this time, so Kong can have 2 statues for free, or if you want, we can go statue MBH and we can come fight at your statue. Then the following statue, we can go into the rotation. I'd prefer to stay at MBH since we already made the announcement yesterday. I personally think you should fight MDH to lower their numbers for Zone 2. We can take the free one and fight you in the other, but we can let you stay in the middle or whatever to get the cap. There's 2 statues. If this is the time UDS is giving yours for free, So your UDF side would be clear for the taking, and then your X side is also clear for the taking. We were just checking if you wanted us to come fight because you guys are bored, or if you are okay with just getting 2 free statues this time. I prefer to stay MBH because I already announced everyone to let you guys have statue. What do you want to do? Fight us out then? Okay, we will 2-cap. Kind of feels like a little bit of chink in the armor starting here with, it's kind of like that Big Brother show where you put, like 20 people in the house for however long, and then eventually over a period of time, you start kind of like finding things or noticing things that, maybe irritate or get on your nerves. And this kind of felt to me like one of the first moments in the diplomacy Discord where I noticed, hey, there's a little bit of chink there. Okay, next one. I'll be honest, I'm kind of unhappy with this. I've been asking for days to come to an agreement. Everyone but one person agreed, but somehow here we are. Kong gets no action, no merits for the shop. We waited till a few hours before the statue opened to actually come to a decision, and it went against what everyone already agreed on. So Kong will take 2 statues this time, and if anyone doesn't like that, then we can fight for one of them. Damn! But this is annoying. If we can't make arrangements with enough time to coordinate with our players, then executive decisions will need to be made in the future. I'm sorry for coming off like a Dioc, but this is more than frustrating. I understand the last minute change doesn't go well with the Alliance scheduling, and then we get Cerberus. I think that's fair and something we need to get ironed out here sooner than later. Leaving it open-ended does not work. Separate topic on this line of thinking, with our primary Zone 2 fight being ASC and yours being X, how do you want to approach the Zone 2 between us? I feel like that's a bit of a gray area. Split it up and fight for the Hydra, fight the whole thing. I'm not super keen to fight both Zone 2s at the same time necessarily, but we can. We could just see who wins and loses. Actually, okay. So the main part and the main takeaway here on this screenshot is the fact that there clearly seems, and this is pretty early on, that there's not a lot of coordination. There's not a lot of structure. There's not a lot of organization. There's probably not a POC or a point of contact or someone that's been voted to kind of lead, guide discussions, make sure that things are being done on time. And this to me was like the second big notice that I felt when it came to these 4 kingdoms coming. You know what it kind of feels like to me? And I'll say this early, but I really feel this, is it kind of felt like when, you're trying to build a team and you're on the blacktop, you're on the basketball court at school, and you know how everyone just lines up. Like sometimes they might do this. I know they did this when I was a kid, right? You have people line up on the blacktop, and then everyone would pick their teams for basketball, and you'd be like, okay, I want you, I want you, I want you. And it's really just a bunch of free-for-all people that are getting put together, right? That are just playing instead of like really doing the work that's needed, which is to sit down, to organize, to structure out ourselves, to do VC meetings, to do all the kind of nitty gritty work that it really takes to make sure everyone's on the same page. Or even better, why not ask a lot of these questions before you form a coalition? There's always the opportunity there. So, okay, next one. This is number 4, I think, that we're on now. And in this one, so that would leave by the end of the season. This is just kind of the confirmation of what they stated: 1 alliance with Dragon, 2 alliances, 6 Clockwork, all of us Hydra. But again, I'll show off the rest of this too as well for everyone to see. All right, now we get to number 5. Then we'll get to number 6. This one we are going to read. So for here it states, true, well, let's find common ground and make it better for now. To be honest, the only thing he was asking for was prompt responses on planning. It's fine if everyone's alliance doesn't work that way, but our members asking us what's the deal and none of us know because nobody has said anything or came to any agreement in here. The whole point of doing a 2v2v2 is because we were stuck in the middle and that would leave us with no fights. So what happened with the statues last night is exactly what we diploed against. Going further, check the chats frequently and voice your concerns or opinion. Not wait until the end of the time of the statute to accuse someone of doing backdoor deals. Communication takes more than one person. It's a simple task to work together to make it work. All right, guys, I think there's just been a lapse in communication here, so let's just work towards getting things straightened out. I want clarity on a few things to make sure everyone agrees. I also have questions at the end of the season, right? So this is, again, and we'll show this off in the next screenshot. But again, I think M brings up a really good point here, which is kind of what we mentioned in the last screenshot that we read through. This is kind of now the third moment that we're seeing what seems to be from someone else noticing either a lack of planning, a lack of preparation, a lack of foresight on things that could potentially happen, and then a lack on some areas of communication. So again, and this is all before Zone 3 and Final Zone, I believe up to this point. Okay, number 7. Then we'll get to number 8. This one we are going to read. So we have that said, I can get the king rolls to agree to the following. Whoever wins zone 2 will move forward. For example, say Kong wins their zone 2 against X, and then UDF wins their zone 2 against ASC. Then those two alliances will fight in the final zone after the Asians are out. In the same example, UDF would fight Kong in final zone, and the winner would get the dragon. The loser would get the second place prize, 1 amber. Then the two losing alliances of zone 2 would fight, and the winner would get the second place prize, with the loser of both zone 2 and final zone matchups getting the last place prize only. The only one contingency about zone 2 is that the Asians, if done right, can hold 3 zone 2s, and if that's the case, the winner of the dragon needs to give their Hydra to the 4th place alliance, who loses their battle. Also, the most difficult part of the season will be securing both the second place prizes, so we need to agree not to be salty with each other and ensure that we capture all zone 3s as a team. Okay, fair enough. This is going to be number 9. Oops, now we'll get to number 10. Then we'll go to number 11. Then we'll get to number 12. We are going to read this one. So this is glorified FFA. Because right now it's glorified FFA is the most fair way to decide rewards between 4 kingdoms. I thought the common goal was to zone lock the other 2 kingdoms. I do think at this point it's best to move forward as a 2v2 under original agreement. I'm unsure how to approach the 4v2 in this situation, though. If Zone 2 losers progress with Shot at Dragon, still I'm sure the winner of Zone 2 will not want the loser building next to them. Let me know what you guys think. Good point for both. The common goal is to zone lock the 2 Asian kingdoms, but yeah, there has to be something because I don't think people would be happy if their opponent who lost Zone 2 somehow managed to get Dragon. To me, it sounds like we're trying to FFA with 4 kingdoms after locking out the Asians. Pretty simple. Let's not complicate shite. We know we can lock them out of the 4v2, so the rest is a wash. No, you guys are trying to FFA with a chance to win back Dragon, and that is not what was agreed upon. Don't try to get sneaky with the wording. A free-for-all after the Zone 2 battles for Dragon seems fine, but otherwise there's going to be problems. Yeah, we can't go into Zone 4 building however we want with everyone having the same chance at Dragon. What kind of twat stick are you, bro? We're trying to be fair and get fights all season. If you're going to name call, you can leave the discussion. Calling a spade isn't name calling. Calm yourself. Take your advice. If Dragon Wars are based off of Zone 2, I wouldn't be opposed to a free-for-all. So I think the challenge here, and I'll get to this in a moment, is that they didn't collect all the options beforehand and then have everyone vote on the option they want to go with and then just committing to that. The problem is that when you, for example, if you were to look at the CallofDragons general chat and you ask yourself how many different questions, how many different topics, how many different discussion points are being talked about at any given moment in a day, and the answer would probably be multiple to a lot. And that's the idea, is that you can't have focused discussions when you're having a free-for-all chat within one general chat discussion, which could be the case here. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But also the fact is that if you just collected if you just had everyone propose something and then you put all the options out and you said, look, we're all going to vote, whichever one gets the most votes, that's the one we'll do. Simple, right? In that case, you got 4 kingdoms. It's either going to be a 2-1-1, a 3-1, or a 4-0, or a 1-1-1-1. If that's the case, then you just have to stipulate a tiebreak, right? For example, you want a tiebreak when you got 4 kingdoms? Why didn't you just reach out to your boy? BN would have came in and been in the tiebreak. I've offered to do that. I've done that actually for, I think, 1 or 2 KVKs as well. So if you guys ever need someone to tiebreak, just hit me up. Okay? All right. So that's that. Let's get to number 13 here. Okay, then we'll get to number 14. This one we will show off. This is just kind of another example of some, we'll just say, hostilities. So someone said, I ain't saying anything that hasn't been said a dozen times. Sleepy says, shut the fuckuda up. And then, please establish this table is later for VC, going 2 for 2 for going back on your word. Swoop says, eat a buffet of docs. Okay, number 14, we will read this. So here's an agreed upon plan. Jasper posts this, original 1v1s will take place. Winners of those 1v1s will then decide how to fight for Dragon Awards. That will take place after we push the Asians out in a 4v2 format. Once the fight for Dragon is done, the invasions of Zone 3s for 2nd and 3rd place in rewards will start to happen. 1st place, and then they just kind of go into what that is. Now, it should be noted that it's easy to say all of that can be done, but the important part here is that you have to be able to push them out, and then they have to stop pushing you, meaning DYH and MH have to stop fighting in order for the 1v1 and the FZ to actually happen. I don't know if that was really considered in that point, and or if they were truly everyone going to contribute to pushing out them from zone 3 and then going back to having the 1v1. Because if MBH and DYH are still aggressively happening, that means you could end up fighting all the way up until the end of the KVK. So then, like, when are you going to have your 1v1 in the FZ? It just doesn't seem, I don't know. To me, it already kind of feels like it really wasn't thought through all the way. But again, and I'm talking, that's in the worst case. Best case is, yeah, they give up, they stop fighting after you push them back in zone 3, and then you're free to do it. But more things have to go right than they do wrong for something like that to happen, in my opinion. Number 15. Wait, is this 15? Or did I skip 15? Yeah, this was 14. Oh, no. I think that was 15. Excuse me. So I think this is 16 because it's not zoomed out. So I'll show you guys this one. And then we get to 17. Yeah, okay, I'm good. I was on 15. And now we get to 18. This one should be. Here we go. So on this one, this reads, I don't mind, but we'll do 17 points today, so I never have to join ruins against the season. I'll message you. We're just going to go around statue killing. We are getting 0 points from any statues because everyone isn't fighting at the statues. Y'all forced all fights off statues for 0 participation points. We could have 3 1v1s, and we got this Falk Fest going, like Meet the Falkers, right? Which is a movie. Great movie, by the way, Ben Stiller. Robert De Niro. Not everything needs Diplo. Again, remember, this is mentioning to the whole Diplo thing for statues before. Don't worry, we moved to DYH statue as well. We want the 72K points. We will come to your statue going topside. We're going, okay, push. ASC is now coming. Looks okay. Shite. I was on my phone, didn't check last night. But that was pretty fun. Better spins on statues W. It's just crazy, but one statue I was done with 100K points. Chitty then comes in at the end here, says, yeah, for the record, just in case it wasn't stated before, these Royal Rumbles are the one time we just get to have fun. So I do agree it doesn't need to be Diplo filled. I think we all want to play whack-a-mole with the Asians, but also some of us just want to get those points done. Lol. So maybe the first hour we just go wildish, and the last hour we can make sure they don't win a statue or something, but half the fun, even with smaller group, was running around, jumping in fights, so let's not lose that fun. And I think this is an important point that Chitty brings up there, is that sometimes you have to kind of weigh out what you want in this situation. You're either going to give them 0 and nothing, and you're okay committing to that, or you are okay fighting in the statues, you give them 0 and nothing in the other areas, or you give them all the smoke. But you have to discuss that beforehand. Everyone has to agree, and then you commit to it because of the reasons presented. Next, let's get to 19. On number 19, this is going to be now from Chitty. Now also some sort of contest between us and ASC would have to happen. Then if we win, we'd have to build through and take all of X's sentries, I guess, while also controlling zone 4, kicking them out, invading their zone 3, then towering their whole zone 3 basically to get both sentries. So as an educated man who's played and built in every season, I'm going to tell you I think it's a wasted effort. I should probably already be taking X's sentry, or at least in their zone 3, ready to take them if we got third place or whatever. The point being, we probably did this wrong, and some of us should have been building into friendly zone 3s because I don't think we got the time or the RSS around the board to accomplish everything in 2 weeks with an active enemy, and all of us being one real alliance warband. And to further clarify, I'm not asking for anything to be changed. It is what it is, but we should acknowledge it now so no one is sad and hurt later when they don't get rewards. Honestly, now that I'm actually paying attention, second place has to do the same thing, but since UDF is in ASC Zone 3, they actually could capture 6 sentries within a reasonable amount of time if they push the Asians nonstop for the next 14 days, while also getting their shell next ASC sentry. If X loses Dragon, I don't know if you're going to have time to collect 6 sentries. Food for thought, homies, food for thought. So, and then Celos even says that was correct. So it's just, I show this one because this is another moment where you're seeing someone talk about the possibility of things not working out. And the fact is that you may need to come to terms with that. Now, keep in mind, you would really have to run the numbers. And I think, though it's nice that someone is at least pointing out this level of initial caution, it would be nice if someone came out and said, hey, here's the average collection rate in an alliance. Here's the amount of flags that you'll be able to do per day. Here's the amount of days we have left. So like, here's the total amount of flags you could accumulate over these next 2 weeks or so. Right. And you like really showed the math off on what you could do. And you counted the amount of flags you would need for everyone to go and get what they need to. And you present that. To me, that's the easiest way to do it. Is you have to do your due diligence. You have to really get nitty gritty and very specific in the details. And then you say, if we're going to accomplish this, this is what we have to do. Does everyone agree? Now, I don't think they did that. I think this is more of like, okay, right, more of people kind of just going up and down the RSS feed, making posts, but maybe not every single person is seeing it, and or being able to have that specifically tailored and topical conversation. Okay, next. This is going to be a 20. And then we'll get to 21. And then we'll get to 22. This one we will read. We got 4 left here. By the way, it looks like DYHMBH will be out of the zone tomorrow evening. What y'all going to do for the Dragon? I'm worried about getting the sentries. I'm assuming all alliances won't have enough RSS available. Oh, where was I? RSS to get them. I talked to Anya and our build team about it. We don't think we have enough time. So now Piggy comes in. From our calculations, it follows that it is a cost of at least 50 towers in every possible direction. If it turns out that X will take the Dragon, then we have to build up to the Hydra in Zone 2 to take it from Kong. Kong has to go from Hydra in X Zone, and our Hydra will go to ASC. Getting sentries is most likely not even possible. Our shell alliance is at 1.5 million RSS. We have 38 towers to remove before going for sentries if that's the case. So if you want to come to terms in any way, do it now. Okay. So this, right, waiting a week to see who takes Dragon means that only one alliance will have any rewards. With all due respect to everyone present here, I ask you to decide. Shitty says, I could probably get 6 sentries, information, so we need to write. This is kind of adding on to what was being said earlier. Now, the challenge here is, like I said before, what at this moment, when you have a second person saying this should have set off alarm bells for everyone. And everyone should have been this should have been the number one priority outside of fighting, which is, okay, what do we need to do here? Well, let's have one person or our build planning territory team from each kingdom or from each alliance go ahead and confirm exactly what Piggy posted. Once that is confirmed and everyone has agreed, then you need to draft up a plan immediately on how to meet your objectives. Then everyone has to agree. That's why I'm saying the moment this happened, even before then, this should have been taken with the utmost level of priority from everyone involved. Was it? From what I read, it doesn't really look like it was. Okay, next, 23. This one. We've planned for sentries this whole time. Now that it's crunch time, it's not possible. Nobody said it's impossible besides ASC. I said we were fine with it. As I told Levin yesterday, we were prioritizing sentries. X didn't ally 4 kingdoms just to get 1 kingdom rewards. Interesting. Just saying interesting. Nobody, more than likely not possible. It's rough, let's say it that way. But yeah, ASC is fine with taking the L this season. Since we get a Hydra, at least, we have, well, it's rough alliance RSS-wise, but we are here for whoever needs our 2 DYH, 2 sentries to help them. By the way, which I think is nice to offer. By the way, I always turn the tower off. We shot the DYH. Okay, if one doesn't go for sentries, there's no third place, first and second. I have Little Piggy from 80 saying it's not possible. You saying you're taking the L. Again, this is where, like I said, don't strictly rely on others right now. And I say this because Piggy would need to know all of the other alliances. He would need to know all the other alliances, how much RSS they have, flags saved up, etc. He would have to know all the details for all the other shells. And then he would have had to go and like post screenshots and do drawings and say, this is where you're at. This is how many flags away everyone is. This is who can get what, who can get this, who can't get that. Like, you would have had to really do a deep dive on this. That's why I'm saying the moment this was stated, it shouldn't have been, oh, and again, I say this respectfully, right? In Sleepy's case, I wouldn't have responded that way. The appropriate way to respond, in my opinion, along with anyone else that may have taken a similar stance that Sleepy did, would have been to say, okay, thank you for sharing with us. We're gonna prioritize this ASAP, and we're gonna double check this information right now. If everyone else can as well, have your building teams go and confirm, and then let's come back and say, this is what we found. And then once everyone's collected everything, then you come up with a plan. This is not difficult. This isn't rocket science. It's very simple, but it requires a level of initiative, foresight, and some planning to be done, some initiative to be taken. Okay, so we said, so Piggy from 80, so nah, so y'all want X to just hand over Dragon and take nothing. Nah, well, and I like how they said X to hand over Dragon when technically it would be X in UDF to hand over Dragon. I just wanted to be clear there. Well, Kong goes for 6. You said you prefer sentries. That makes it 2 X2. I did not say I prefer. I said I'm prioritizing save power for sentries. Since that was the whole reason for this dumb arse Diplo that we did. That's interesting. Confirmation of the Diplo win. And now y'all are backpedaling. It's not just for Sleepy and them. It's for everyone obviously involved. Heck nah, you boys done your work for it this season. Well, so basically to boost from 2 to 3, 2 could also take 3 necros. It's just 3 heads, but having 3 heads is better than 0. Okay. Number 24. Yeah, we did, and now half the Diplo Alliance is telling me sentries aren't possible. Basically, thanks for X for doing all the work. I mean, that's rough to say it like that, especially when there's other people there that contributed, regardless of how much they did contribute, to basically say you did all the work and everyone else did nothing. Even if you didn't mean it, that's why you have to be very careful about how you word things and what you write, because that's very cringeworthy. I'm going to be honest. Well, I said that earlier already, and again, said we are fine letting Kong take the sentries. 80 saying the same thing you are. Sorry, but what do you mean do all the work? See, there you go. You sat behind pass with 2 bastions, not really needing to defend your zone. LMAO, that's called defense, bucko. I do think there's a big difference between defending and not letting someone come in versus pushing them out. In my opinion, and I stated this as well when I think it was the whole like BXS, EIX, or BDO EIS thing happened with TFS, and I'm forgetting who was their partner in that one season. And they basically held off TFS and their teammate from pushing right beyond that choke. And I'll be very consistent because I've said this multiple times. I personally feel that it is more impactful and more meaningful when you can push someone out versus defending and holding on. And that's inherently because of the fact that we know many people have publicly stated from top kingdoms that defense is easier than offense. Not to say that it's overwhelmingly or it's only a tiny bit, but this is something that many top PvP kingdoms and players have stated themselves publicly. So that's called map advantage. That's not every pass had. Well, the decision for Dragon is between X and UDF. Now also keep in mind, I will give a caveat here, which is that the caveat is simple. If you are trying to save flags because you need to have more territory and flags available to push objectives, I will give you that. But that's the only caveat I'll give you in this particular situation because they have 4 kingdoms that have to try and get 4 different types of reward objectives. Okay. Decision between X and UDF. I gave Kong our go-to with us taking 4th, but you saying you did all the work is the biggest BS I heard in 8 seasons from an ally. You have a terrible defense and allowed DWH to dog walk you. UDF sat back and stacked Elixir and merit traded all the way into the final zone opening. X nonstop fought all season, did the brunt of it in final zone. X continuing to try to maximize rewards for this dumb arse Diplo alliance, and half of y'all are trying to back on now that it's crunch time. I'm not having it. Go get sentries we discussed and agreed on and stop losing your zone 3s. Okay, number 25. All right, now we get to number 26. Oh, this was supposed to be 26. Yeah. Okay, so this is the last one we'll show. Well, we have a few more we'll show too as well, but this is the last big one we're going to read through. When we did initial Diplo, MBHDH didn't reach out at all to anybody, and nobody of the other 4 wanted to get left out in the cold out of the 4 that were there. I don't really think anyone was a big fan of 4v2, but the other 2 weren't there or available. So we know for a fact this was not the case and this wasn't true. The fact is that 2 DYH and MBH were not contacted by anyone from what we know thus far. On the other hand, we know that one of those alliances did reach out to someone, but I don't know exactly who that was. And that's how they found out that it was going to be a 4v2. So, yes, it is true that one of the 2 alliances didn't reach out to anyone, but the other 4 alliances possibly didn't reach out to MBH or DYH at all either. The fact is that why were all 6 alliances not immediately added into a diplomacy group chat from the beginning, regardless of what anyone has had to say? There's been multiple KVK groups that were formed. Not to say it happens all the time, but there have been cases of KVK groups being formed with kingdoms that don't like each other, but everyone still gets added to the Discord, right? And then they just figure it out from there. Even if it's as simple as you get added, some people propose, and because you're so vehemently against working with them, you just leave. Okay, but at least you joined. So we have weren't there weekend. It was obvious that X wanted Dragon EOS at any cost and was looking for anything to use to justify their betrayal, like the Elixir picture. And it was easy for them to get what they wanted because of looking at World Chat all season. DYH and BH seemed to have bad blood with UDF from previous season or something. So it was not really easy to get them on board with X's plan. This was what it seems like to me. So this is interesting that they basically say that this was the case for how they felt it looked like when X wasn't able to get the Dragon EOS awards, because we know that that was something they stated that they really wanted, along with, don't touch. Thank you, sweetie. Sorry, sweetie, what'd you want? I'll tell you when. Did you finish cleaning? Okay, go do that for me, please. Thank you. Okay, so you get this situation where this person now is saying, okay, well, this kind of looks interesting to me, where from X's standpoint, they felt suspicious against UDF, but now you have other people saying, okay, well, they're kind of suspicious against X. So I'm just saying it's both sides, right? And then told you, I just throw you in cold water and let you do. Was that supposed to be drowned? And then even Piggy says, I had the same impression. It's my first season in UDF, although it seems to me that history has some significance in all of this. Someone says, absolutely. By the way, are your people receiving invitations to other servers? And then someone says, recruiters are working quickly. Okay, now to get to some last pieces, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. So I saw this, someone posted the screenshot from Rich, which says, Kong betrayed me, 0% chance they can beat you guys. Congrats. What do you mean? Kong kicked me because I called out Dabfire for lying. The guy said this was a good kingdom for active fighters after losing to X very badly. And hearing that, plenty of R4 have to say. It's obvious he lied. Kong kicked me. I'm going road. You guys went automatically. Kong will be busy in zone 1. They weren't going to help you guys win anyways. They don't deserve a single behemoth outside of zone 1. And then we got another screenshot someone sent me of screenshot of your conversations about betraying our allies. Sorry, I made it prefer not to show. People tell me things asking to be secret. Okay. Now, the last one I'm going to show you here, I think is one of the most important. And this is of all the relevant channels in the Coalition Discord. Now, a couple things that I feel should have been added here that could have helped to alleviate a lot of what you were hearing me refer to as like just a giant RSS feed of the Discord. And this is, one, they didn't have an announcement channel in the leadership Discord. They didn't have separate channels for specific topics or even threads that could have maybe been created. But I'd be fine with channels because the Discord's not going to be that big anyways. An example of some would be having like a voting channel, having a channel to discuss Zone 2, a channel to discuss Zone 3, discuss Final Zone, to discuss Statue, Supreme Statue, etc. End of season rewards. This would have allowed to have focused conversations and discussions, so that way you're not treating leadership chat like you treat Gen chat on the COD Discord, which is any topic could be happening at any time. So to me, after I read through all of this, I look at the channels, I look at how the Diplo started, where it ended, how everything kind of culminated. There were many opportunities here for this to turn out better than it did. Okay, now let's get to what some of my final points are that I'm going to touch on. So, and I'll show you guys this too as well because I wrote them down just to make it a little bit easier. So the simplified version we have here is UDF initiated Diplo with 3 other kingdoms. Oh, let me scroll this down a little bit more if I can. Right? Is that goodish? Okay, here we go. So UDF initiated Diplo with 3 other kingdoms. MBH, DYH, not consider. DYH should not reach out to anyone. MBH reached out to some. I think it was one that they ended up saying. UDF X Kong ASC did not reach out to MBH, DYH from what we know thus far. 3v3 initially proposed, then 2v2, lastly 4v2. 4v2 plan is heavily reliant on dominance to meet Kingdom end of season awards objective. That's just a fact. 4v2 is a diplomacy win before KVK starts. The moment objectives seem to not be achievable during FZ, doubt enters. And really it was probably before FZ and then once FZ hit. X Kong switched sides. They joined MBH, DYH. X adamant about wanting to fight for Dragon and also deserving the Dragon. Okay, this is a very quick view summary of what's happened. Now, let me get to what I think some of the main points are here, because I actually think that there is kind of fault or opportunity, I'll say, on both sides. So here's my 7 points here. Not including everyone in Diplo is the number 1 mistake, and that should have occurred. Number 2, forcing a Diplo win. Number 3, not properly setting up your coalition Discord. Number 4, not having a specifically detailed out plan and also reinforcing this plan throughout KVK, right? So it's not out of sight, out of mind, it's in sight and in the mind. Number 5, allowing frustrations to show and venting as buildup to the FZ. Because all you're doing right now is just creating dissent, you're creating doubt, and that usually is not a good recipe when you're trying to work as a team. That's why you heard me talking about that whole like free-for-all basketball, we're picking, you got team captains, you're just picking one person there for each team. Number 6, the FZ explodes when objectives are not being met. Again, the difference between having realistic versus unrealistic expectations. And then lastly, we get the betrayal occurs. Now, on one side, you have X and then loosely attached Kong, who felt that because the objectives weren't met, they felt lied to. They felt that it went back on what the agreement was, so they switched sides and go to MBHDYH. On the other side, with UDF and ASC, they feel that, okay, this is the situation that's playing out, and with X being consistently adamant about wanting to win and also deserving dragon rewards, amongst other things that have been said, it just doesn't look like that's going to be the case based on what they looked at territory-wise. Okay. Now, again, this is where I can understand both sides of it to a degree. I will say in the end, I lean a little bit more in favor of the ASC UDF side. Now, that's for one thing. I lean, and I'll give you a second thing too as well, because I do lean on the other side for another thing. But for one thing, I lean on their side when it comes down to the coalition and the team aspect of needing to understand that if that's true and the territory wasn't confirmed or was confirmed and that's what it was, then okay, you kind of like, look, man, you made your bed, you got to sleep in it. Don't be ignorant now, accept where you're at, and then try to make the best of the situation. On the other side, I do agree with X and Kong on the front of that. One, the diplomacy win, the heavy push from UDF, it felt like initially to do the Diplo win. And then you get a situation where, hey, this is what's agreed to. You guys got to put up or shut up, right? You need to make sure that you are living up to, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't know if UDF and ASC were not fully committing to everything that was there. So that's why I can kind of agree with both sides. However, I give equal, I don't want to say blame, but I will give it out equally to everyone involved for the general opportunities that everyone could have participated in, but the majority and up to everyone did not for certain important areas that should have been dealt with and figured out in the beginning and throughout the KVK. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the other things that I had thought about is, listen, man, when you have 4 kingdoms and you're trying to divvy up rewards to everyone, remember, 4 is more than 3. It's a lot easier to divvy up rewards between 2 kingdoms than it is 4. And it's easier to divvy up to 3 kingdoms than 4. So again, if you would have done a 3v3 and you would have tried to work that out as best you can, even if maybe you had to put some stipulations in here or there, it would have been easier on end of season rewards instead of trying to kind of fit in this 4th. And because remember, if you have to do rewards for 4 kingdoms, that means you have to go and conquer more territory and you have to do more. And if the other team is somewhat formidable, which in this case, it very much seems that MBH and DYH were and are, that might be difficult. Like to me, that kind of would have been a red flag in the very beginning, especially when someone said that, I think someone had made a post about how 5 out of 10 of their like top players or something like that were like the top 5 gem users for like RSS healing or something like that someone was saying that was on the MHDYH side. So, and someone talked about having like secret stats at some point. So it just, to me, it felt like there were multiple red flags before the KVK started that were just either kind of blown off, not considered, or maybe they just didn't really look into it or care enough to have a quality discussion about it. So yeah, again, I'd love to hear what you guys think. This is everything I got for you on this one. Hopefully, if anything, you enjoy what's been shown, you've enjoyed what's been read, but more importantly, hopefully you take something away from this and are able to apply better approaches to your KVK group and future KVK seasons. That's it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.